Athlete Builder back at it. Big shout out, Pedro Ruza, for connecting me today with today's guest. Today I got Conor Hughes, Director of Strength and Conditioning at West Point. 10 years at Army, 8 years running that weight room, the guy behind a 635-pound school record squat, the lineman who landed on the freak list. But here's the number that stops me: five. Five of his former assistants have gone on to become FBS head strength coaches. And Conor will tell you that every single time he loses one of them, his program somehow gets better. Now, this is a guy who calls himself a D3 offensive lineman and only jokes because there was no D4. So you can't get much less athletic than this guy. He'll tell you straight up he wasn't a great athlete, but he found something in that weight room that he fell in love with on day one, and he's built one of the most respected programs in all of college football. Today we get into his 10 daily non-negotiables, the breath work, the cold tub, the journaling he does every single day before he even touches a barbell, because he believes a team has a hive brain, and if the coach isn't mentally right, the whole team feels it. We get into why he owns every mistake in the room and why telling the truth makes your problems everyone's problems, and how you build a culture strong enough that losing your best people only makes you stronger. Conor, man, welcome to the show. Go Army.
Beat Navy.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. I've been wanting to say that ever since I got you lined up, Conor. So you weren't a great athlete by your own standards. You said you weren't a great athlete, but when did it click in the weight room that this is going to be something you could really make a difference and be elite at?
When did I think I could make a difference and be elite at? I'm not sure I'm elite now, but really I fell in love with this my first day as an intern at Georgia Southern. So I graduated from Springfield College. I still need to do one more internship before I fully graduated. And I didn't know if I wanted to be a college strength coach. And then I got to Georgia Southern and I fell in love day one of coaching athletes in the weight room. I like I said, I played D3 football. There's no Division IV. So like you don't get much more unathletic than a D3 offensive lineman. Didn't even know if I wanted to stick around in college sports after, but when I got down there and I could experience the joy of just bringing energy and bringing juice and getting guys excited, like day one, I was in love. And then as I progressed in my career, obviously you have setbacks, you have challenges throughout your career, but every stop I've made, I've fallen more and more in love with the process of training athletes and getting them mentally and physically stronger to be able to go out there and be confident to compete. So I don't know if there was a one point where I felt it, but it's been a long road of little points of just progress and achievement that has made this career something that I enjoy getting up and doing every single day.
A lot of times I'll ask people on their journey, what was your welcome to moment, whether it be high school or college or pro sports, like your first time you're seeing, wow, this is a whole new level for me. And then as an intern, but when you get to Army, there's a lot of different standards and a lot of different disciplines there that you might not see elsewhere. What was a welcome to West Point moment? You're like, wow, this is absolutely different than what I'm used to.
Really, it's the people here that make it special. And when I came here from the University of Albany, I was the head strength coach there for 6 or 7 years. And I remember driving back and forth and moving my stuff. And I was listening to different books about West Point and about the history and about Army football and just trying to get a feel for it. And because I have no military background, anything like that. And what I came to expect and what I expected and what it was are two completely different things. I expected our guys to be almost like robots, like already made soldiers, like they were yes sir, no sir, which they are. But they're normal 18 to 22-year-old kids. They're just the best 18 to 22-year-old young men you'll ever work with in your life. At a normal place, you have 5 guys that are great leaders that work their tails off every single day, that you trust when they tell you something that's the truth. Here, we just have 125 of them. That's the difference. But really, again, I wish I had a one. This is the moment that I know it's actually, I'll give you a great one. I got one up the top of my head. When we went to do mat drills the first year here under Coach Monk and the staff. And everybody in college football does mat drills. Actually, we stopped doing them this year. We moved to more of a skill development, but this is going back 10 years ago. We were doing mat drills in the winter, and everybody in college football Division I does these mat drills. So it's conditioning with the coaches along with the strength staff, and how highly structured and organized this one day of training was. And it's all done by Coach Monken. Was like the welcome to, this is big time college football. This is how we win here. Because everything was recorded. Everything was filmed. Every single player had to be doing the exact right drill at all times. And we watched it in staff meeting for 3-4 hours after. We were watching in staff meeting to make sure that Coach Monk could keep the coaches within the standard also, to make sure that we were holding the standard. And really it was, all right, instead of just going out and coaches have their coffee and they're taking them through drills saying the guys aren't tough enough. No, we are absolutely coaching our guys on all these little drills, and every single detail really matters. And that was the welcome to it moment for me.
It's amazing. I love listening to Jocko. He'll say that discipline equals freedom, and it's always so evident in the service academies, and there's evident in other places as well. You can see it, though, when at the end of the year, there's almost no penalties listed for the service academies, right? So they'll have some, but when I'm watching the Army-Navy game and they finally have a penalty and it's going into halftime, we're like, wow, this game's going pretty fast. So the standard is the standard, and right before we started recording, we were talking about last week's episode with Tom Ryan, and he talked about the standard is the standard. Even the guys have to hit this mile-and-a-half time. You mentioned in your prep that there's 10 non-negotiables. Can you walk us through those and talk or a few of those, and we'll get into a few of them.
This is for me every day. And these are non-negotiables for me to be able to really not achieve, but perform at a high level as a coach. And it allows me the ability to have the mental strength to go about my day and know that if I do these things, I can affect young men in a positive way. So every day I do my breath work. That's one of the first things I do. I just do some sort of a Wim Hof derivative where I'm taking 30 to 50 deep inhales, letting it go, then hold for a certain amount of time. I meditate at some point every single day, lift, do cardio, try to eat healthy. That's the one I fail at the most. Drink a gallon of water, jump in a cold tub, journal, make sure I read, do something for someone else, do something for someone else, and try to be social. Those are really the things that I try to do every single day. And that I think people's subconsciouses, whether or not we're speaking these words, but when our subconscious is healthy, when our brain is healthy, we give a positive vibe to the people around us. I believe that like a team has a hive brain. And as one of the leaders of the team, one of the coaches of the team, if I am not don't have the mental capabilities of performing at my best, I'm sending that out into the world. I'm sending that into this team. They're not going to perform at their best. So I try to keep myself as mentally strong, as mentally healthy as I can every single day in order to affect the young minds of these young men that I train.
I'm always doing research. You see a bunch of books behind me. I'm reading and listening to other podcasts, and selfishly, I get continuing education every week when I record with someone. And there's this one study, and this is to your point. They took the first group of people that exited the movie theater, and they had them read through these 30 flashcards, and they're just random words about whatever. And then it was about 100 yards from there to the exit of the theater. And they timed how long it took them to walk that 100 yards. They came up with an average. The next group, same demographic, same movie, same time of day, same number of cards. However, about a third of the cards in there had words like old, Florida, paralysis, crippled, right? Just words about being older and nearer to death. And then they timed their walk to the exit, and it was significantly slower. Their heads are down. So in their mind, they're already thinking about being older or dying or whatever. And you're absolutely right. I'll kid myself when I'm walking in the gym where I would coach or dealing with other folks that I'm going to be able to bring great energy after a whole bunch of bad things that just happened, right? A bunch of negative things happened. And the times when I would take 5 minutes to compartmentalize and flip that switch made all the difference. Or on the way home where you're wound up from coaching in the gym, you're all wound up and aggressive, and you're going to come home to your wife and kids for dinner, I'll put on jazz music or blues music, something calming, because I got to flip that switch the other direction. And you're right. You have to do the things because your body screams how you're actually feeling, even when you don't think it is.
Yeah. And I tell young coaches all the time is no matter what's going on in your life, your girlfriend could break up with you. You just got yelled at. You have so much stress at home. When these young men walk into our weight room, you need to turn that off and you need to be all in to this session, and you need to catch them and get them excited in the first 5 minutes. And if you don't, you're not going to get it done throughout the session. So when you need to do the things to take care of yourself to make sure that you're mentally healthy and you're mentally at your game to be able to affect them. And otherwise you're wasting your time because you have the best program on paper in the world, but if they're not doing it to their full capability because you either didn't explain it well and I tell our guys all the time, after we get done with a session, I don't want to hear that the players screwed this up. When 99% of the time, when something doesn't go well in our session, I can take it back as something I didn't explain well enough or I didn't organize well enough. And that's why they screwed up. It's not that they're not listening. They want to do the right thing. It's when I don't prepare well enough is when we have issues. And I tell young coaches, when you have back-to-back sessions and say you have the offense coming in and the defense coming in after, why is the defensive session always better than the offensive session? It's because you already went through and saw the issues on the offensive session, and saw when you didn't explain something well, how it ended up, and you can make those adjustments on the fly. So you need to preemptively look and try to make those adjustments so that both sessions are just as good.
It's that feedback loop. You can't get around it. And even if you prepare in advance, you're still going to get some new reps that you expected to see, and now you're going to be better. And that's just the way that goes.
Always.
I remember listening to Zach Avanesh. He's always talking about bringing the juice. And one of the equations written on the wall at my gym was intensity equals results. Intensity is measured a lot of different ways. It might be how much time you have in between sets. It could be an absolute strength number that's very intense when you're maxing out a squat or a clean or whatever. But that extra energy brings some extra effort. And then so your body's working at its maximum capacity, maximum ability. And that's when the adaptation occurs. It's not when you're doing the warm-up sets at a moderate pace. It's when you're putting out everything you can. Your body's like, oh, shoot, man, this is really harder. It's harder than what I've done before. I now have to evolve. I can't just sit here. And you're right about owning it. Once you own it as the coach, hey, what I would say is that there's no bad athletes, there's only bad coaches. Now, that's not necessarily 100% true. You can have some pretty bad athletes that are just being assholes, right? I get that. But overall, like, that's pretty rare, right? And especially when they're on scholarship and they're holding the feet to the fire. So yeah, once you own it though, right or wrong, you then are empowered to make an adjustment. If you're blaming someone else, there's nothing for you to do now because someone else did. It has a problem, right? But once you own it, then you can say, oh, what do I do next? If you blame someone else, there's no answer to what do I do next because that person has to change. And as long as you own it, you have a chance to keep getting better.
Amen. It's like what you said, it just led me to this is I tell, again, young assistants, young people is when you tell a lie, you make the problem your own. When you tell the truth, you make the problem everybody else's. And that's another thing I try to live by is try to tell the truth as much as all the time, as much as possible, where it won't hurt another human being when it's just a little trivial thing. But you try to tell the truth as 99.99% of the time, because then you make the problem everybody else's. You tell a lie, you make the problem.
I just met with one of my friends, Craig Haggard. He was on my show. He was a Marine fighter pilot, and he's talking about one of his tenets. There's two different times when it was the biggest moments of his life where he learned simply that telling the truth is the way to go. And one is, he was telling me the story about going through SEER training. That's basically where it's training to prepare you as if you were a POW captured person. Right. So they treat you like you're a POW and you're going to get interrogated. You're going to get beaten on. You're going to get sleep and food deprivation. And what they would say, the best way to beat any kind of interrogation is to tell the truth adjacently is what he said, or kind of. I go, what does that mean? He goes, it was well documented. This one guy, he was a real life POW and he's getting interrogated by these Iraqis and he keeps telling the truth. But the stories he kept telling the truth about were just basic training stories so that his mind could go back to something that really happened.
Yes.
And he's giving them information about that, but it's the truth. It's not the information that they wanted. But once you start having to remember, man, what did I say to this one guy? Because that wasn't exactly true. Once you start having to do that, oh my God, it's just not gonna work.
It's the end. Absolutely.
No chance.
Absolutely.
I wrote down 5 of your assistants became FBS head strength coaches, and you said every time there's turnover, the program somehow gets better. It's already hard enough building culture. Walk me through how you lose someone who's doing well enough to go to the FBS head level, someone else gets promoted, and how your program evolves and gets better from that.
So 8 years ago, I would have been like, that's a crazy statement. But I've been very lucky to get great young assistants here and be able to develop and mentor those guys. And what I try to do is every time I have turnover, and I have 4 different roles and subsets that one guy might fill 2 at some points. He might fill 1, but it's really, there's a mobility guy, there's a technology guy, there's a nutrition guy, and there's a speed guy. Now, those aren't just, that's their role, but I have somebody who heads up kind of each one of those areas. And when I have an associate head strength coach, right now it's Anthony MacArthur, he's going to be the next guy to get an FBS head job next year. He's outstanding. But what happens is I try to promote from within. And every time that I lose a guy, I want the guy right behind him to be ready to take his next role. So if you're at the bottom and you're just doing nutrition and mobility right now, and we have a guy doing technology, your job over that year is to learn all the technology. So when he leaves, I can promote you right to that job. But really what's happened is gotten really good young people who want to come in here and work hard. And I'll give you the GPS and the technology piece for an example. When I first got here, GC Yeri, Godkala Yeri, he's at Illinois. He's the first assistant at Illinois right now. He's been there for, I think, 5 years, making a fortune. They're just loving his life, doing a great job. But he's took over our GPS. I didn't know I was FCS. This was 8 years ago. We didn't know how to use Catapult. I said, GC, I don't know how to do this, and I'm not going to be able to figure this out. You figure out this GPS. And he researched it and learned, and we started making graphs of practice, graphs for Coach Monken, little sheets and things like that. And we got better. And the next thing that happens is I bring in Brandon Reyes, and Brandon Reyes is now one of the assistants at Florida, working for Rusty Witt, who's one of my former assistants. And Brandon, because he's worth a shit, wants to make it better. He now has this responsibility, and he wants to make that GPS better than what he did. It's better than what GC did. And then you hire another guy, and Brandon keeps working that. I then hire Jake Riedel, who's now the head strength coach at Central Michigan, and he wants to make the GPS even better just because we have the base of what Brandon did. We have the base of what GC did. So he wants to put his own twist on it. He makes it a little bit even better. John Morris comes in. He wants to make it a little bit better. So if you hire people that care, they don't want to just, and I fully let people own the positions that they have. I give them right and left parameters and say, this is your job. Figure it out. And the more you own this, the better this program is going to be. But when you give people responsibility and they want to be good coaches, they're going to make it better, and they're going to make it better, and they're going to make it better. And they've watched, and they kind of have. I've been lucky that I haven't lost all 4 guys at once, because there's guys that kind of teach them the Army way. But it's holding a standard with those guys, but also it's giving them ownership. Like our skill and combo group, I only train our offensive line and our young defensive linemen at this point in the weight room and on the field. We have a hybrid group that's our older defensive linemen, our tight ends, and we have a skill and combo group. And I don't do any of the program for those guys. Coach Mack and Coach KD, they do all the program for those guys. Coach Anderson and Coach Morris, they do all the programming, all the training for our defensive linemen, our tight ends. And when you give people ownership in something, and they're the head strength coaches for that area, they want to do a good job, and they want to achieve. And when it's their program, they want to prove that it works. So if you hire people who want to prove themselves, it makes it a beneficial situation for myself, for them, and for the players. I want everybody to see that program as they're the head strength coach.
The phrase is, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right?
Absolutely.
And you're talking about always evolving something that a giant just did really well. I come back to a very basic example. When Galileo says, hey, the sun is stationary, we're moving around it, he's contradicting Aristotle of all people, right? Because it's designed that once people are smart and we learn everything, Newton teaches everything about physics, but a century later, we knew everything he put out, and we evolve it. It takes that entrepreneurial spirit of ownership. And when I would tell my coaches, I say, I want you guys to be better at this one area or other areas than I am, because if you're just looking for directions from me, then we as a group are only as good as what's in my brain, because we're all limited by what I can do, because I'm making all the calls, I'm making all the decisions. Hopefully you see a wrinkle from a different perspective that turns things around, that gives us a little more of an advantage, a little more of evolution. So being able to do that is great, that you can trust them, empower them, and there's going to be some back and forth with the guardrails and stuff, because people make mistakes, and that's the way that goes. But that's the way to build that team, and it's so more fruitful that way.
And one thing I picked up from Bob Ford, who was the head coach at Albany, he was the only head coach at Albany. He built it from a club program to the highest level of FCS you can get, over 42 years. But he would always tell me to praise in public and chastise in private. I want every assistant on my staff to believe that they are the best strength coach in the country, and that they're having a massive impact on our program, because they are one. But I'm going to brag to them in front of them. I'm going to brag to them about them to other people. But when I need to correct them, it's a closed door meeting. It's me and them. And if you ask them, those meetings can be harsh, but I'm not yelling. I'm not getting mad at them. I can control my own emotion. This isn't up to standard. This isn't up to standard. You need to improve in this area. I didn't like this. But it's handled almost immediately. As soon as I sniff out a problem, I'm going to bring you in and we're going to have this talk. And at that point, I expect it to be fixed. I think that's the best way to handle people, and it removes the ego. I will never correct them unless there's a dangerous situation. I'll never correct them in front of an athlete, because that takes away their influence with that athlete. And try not to correct them in front of each other too, because then there's ego involved. I want to remove all the ego from any sort of correction situation, I can't.
You're right. That ego is just a defensive protecting mechanism that help you feel better about yourself because you're worried about not being liked or abandoned, essentially,
Yeah,
emotionally at
absolutely.
your infant stage. If you get that out of the equation and you're just looking for how do we improve really quickly, you're hunting for the weaknesses. You're excited to see, hey, I can make this quick adjustment and already be a little bit better.
Amen.
And most people really, when they're happy about what their job is, it's because they feel like they're making progress. Oh, I made some progress today. I had a win. That's all people really want for that fulfillment. If they see that or they feel that over and over again, then it's so repeatable.
Amen.
I want to hear how, what, when, where, why, how. SMFKC. Sierra Michael Foxtrot Kilo Charlie.
Yeah. So
It's tattooed on some players' bodies. What's that mean? How to get around there? How is that woven into the culture?
And really, I created this through some dark times in my own life. And we've all had, everybody, if you live long enough, you're going to have hardship and points when your back's against the wall and you need to decide who you are and what you're about. And the idea of some motherfuckers keep coming it's echoed in this program. And I came up with it when I was at the University of Albany. Really, the idea is that no matter what you go through, there's a choice. There's a choice to start to make things, to quit and make things easier on yourself, or to blame other people. Or you can, if you're backed up in a corner, you can fight your way out. And it might be 10 seconds at a time. Not everybody can be strong the entire day. You hear the one day at a time mantra. There's been points in my life where I can't be strong for a whole day, but I know I can be strong for the next 10 seconds. And the 10 seconds after that, I'll worry about that when I get there. But for the next 10 seconds, I'm going to fight my ass off to get better and to fight my way out of a hard situation. And when you've lost a couple of games, or you've had a hard training session, or there's 600 pounds on that squat and you've never taken that kind of weight before. And let's just use the squat for an example. So there's a point in every strong lifter's career where you get a great brace in the squat. You sit all the way down, you start to come back up, you get a little bit of the oscillation of the bar, you get the bounce out of the bottom. And there's a point where as you're driving up, that bar stops. And meaning all the force that you're driving up, all the gravity coming down,
Equals.
the 600 pounds, that bar stops. And in that 1 second, you have a choice to make. And you make that choice, and right then, and it may feel like it lasts 10 minutes, but it's really probably in between 1 and 3 seconds. But you're in no man's land. You're in a weird space. And in that choice, you have a choice to continue to drive or to quit. And it's a life or death situation. Your body sees it as a life or death situation because you have 600 pounds in your back and the safety bars are there. But in that moment, if you've been mentally callousing yourself through life to be able to, or that might be your mental callous of life, is just lifting weights. That might be the hardest thing you've ever gone through. You have a choice to continue to push when things are really scary and really hard. And if you continue to push and you make that choice to keep coming, the bar will eventually rise. But coming back to, if you lose a few games, you walk in there and you have that mantra of no matter what happens, no matter how hard this gets, like some motherfuckers are going to keep coming and some aren't. It's a goddamn choice. There's some pride in that. And there's some self-reliance and some team reliance that if you feel that and you ingrain that in who you are, it becomes hard to turn your back on. So I don't think I explained that well. I think it makes sense in my head, but I don't think it came out fully, but I think you feel the energy that I brought with that. And it's something that I try to live my life on. And it's something that I try to ingrain these young men. And these guys get done with Ranger School and they're like, shit, that was nothing compared to that was longer, but nothing compared to a 600-pound squat, or nothing compared to it. Because we had this mantra or we had this idea in our head that some motherfuckers keep coming. And to me, it's kind of sums up Army football.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And a number of reasons I want to get into. One, I agree. Two, like my first tattoo I ever had on my arm or ever was the word sisu, which is a word from Finland. It means guts and entrails. It doesn't translate very well, but it means when you're at your lowest point, you're looking at suicide or addiction or whatever else, you hang on and just keep fighting. Is what that word means. It's the mantra for the entire country. I'm not from Finland. I just like that I can encompass that one mantra in one word. So I had that tattooed on me. The second tattoo was about Jesus. I should have gotten that done first. And when people, like at the end, when I ask those rapid fire questions, what's your favorite lift? And someone ever asks me, I always say it's the squat, because it was the one lift where I was always whenever I was maxing out, I was usually a bit afraid. There's a level of fear. I've had disc injuries. I've had a number of injuries. I was a strength athlete in my late 30s and 40s where I'm doing the 600 pounds, but I'm 45 years old. And so it would always, on those days, I always be a little nervous. There's a little bit of fear involved. So it was always my favorite lift because it's on my back. Like I can always let go of the bar on the deadlift. On the bench, there's gonna be people that's gonna catch it. Same thing with the squat too, but it's on your back. You're holding it. And I've had injuries from it. So that feeling of when it sticks and you get through it, that is such pure joy.
Unbelievable.
It's such pure joy that, hey, I made it through this dark place. And I usually don't listen to certain kinds of music to pump me up unless I'm maxing out a couple different lifts, squat being one of them. The other thing I would always take from it is that, hey, you're afraid, but you push through is one. The other thing is that usually there's a one-word cue that if you have a high-level coach, my wife was excellent at coaching, powerlifting, she could find the one cue. Now, for some, it's a motivational thing. You just say up, so they keep pushing up. It might be knees, so knees out, or squeeze, which means squeeze your ass. So when you're at that darkest point where it's sink or swim, fight or flight, if you could typically focus on one thing and move forward, then you got a shot. You got a shot. The people we had from Special Forces, they would say during buds, they would focus on just walking to chow and then getting the chow, and then they get to eat. And then get your food and then sit down. They were focused on just one thing. So when you're in that horrible moment, you have no other brain capacity to exert energy. And if you focus on that one thing, you got a shot as long as you keep pushing. The other thing is that when you're surrounded by your brothers, your teammates, you know that ultimately you're still going to be safe. So there's lessons to be learned there that, heck, I got these people spotting me. Like I know one of my coaches was Dustin. He was always stronger than I ever was. I know that when he's behind me, that if I was ever in trouble, I'm fine. Now, my wife, 5'2", 135 pounds, I would not be fine, right?
Amen.
But I'm like, hey, me and my teammate here,
Yep.
No matter what, I'm good. I'm good. And then the last lesson I took from what you said was those guys at Ranger School, when I say confidence comes from reps, you have to experience some things to be able to believe you can do something of that level, that same intensity, or a little bit more.
Yeah.
If you just squatted 135, you're not going to be very confident squatting 405.
Never.
You got to work your way up and earn the right to be confident. You can have faith and belief going into it, but you don't really earn it until you actually done something similar or comparable to it. So I absolutely love that phrase. I'd probably put that on a flag or tattoo it somewhere and put it hanging up in the gym.
Love it. Love it.
I want to talk to you. I have a ton of questions. As you might see, I like to prepare.
Love it. Love it.
I got
Absolutely.
40. I want to jump around. I'm selfish. And I know you said you coached the linemen, right? Now, I don't know everything over an Army by a stretch, but those boys that are 300 pounds, because football's a game of force, but those dudes still got to hit the PT numbers in their runs and push-ups, right? There might be a different standard during football season, but how do those dudes manage, because they're moving big weight and they got to be heavy, but they also can't be getting killed on the runs and being in formation, right?
So it's yes and no. And yes, our guys will have to take the ACFT once or twice a year, but the ACFT has been really good to us. It is much more strength and power and explosion exercise than our guys crush. So it's even our linemen crush that I'll put it this way. When our guys are here and they're college football players for those 3.5 years, they're college football players. They're the majority of their physical training, 99% of their physical training will be done with our staff and the football coaches. When they go to graduate, they're going to have to lose 60 pounds and pass the 2-mile run and be able to do the IOCT, which is an indoor obstacle course here at West Point. And in my 10 years, we've never had an offensive lineman who hasn't got into incredible shape after done. You're about to graduate from West Point. You've done 3.5 years of Army football and you're pretty locked in. You can manage your diet and manage all that. But so yeah, with the ACFT, our guys actually, instead of doing a 2-mile run, they'll either do a row or a bike. And it's formulated that they're still in good cardiovascular shape to be able to do those things. But they're 300 pounds and they're 300 to 320 pounds and they're Division I college football players. So yes, we do get a little bit of, I wouldn't say, a little bit of a laxer cardiovascular standards while they're here, just because it would be hard to go out there and run 5 and 10 miles when you're 300 pounds. We'd get shin splints, we get issues like that. But they're taking all the PE classes that all the other guys are taking. They're taking boxing, they're taking combatives, they're taking all the swimming classes, the military movement, but they're not going out in the field for an extended amount of time and doing they do all the summer training. It's just a condensed version. So it's
sure.
Our guys get back in June and we train from June till the beginning of camp and it's all football.
When my son, he played at Ball State and he finished in December of 25. Now it's halfway through 26 and he played linebacker. And when you're done competing in football, for him, one of the things was, I'm so happy I don't have to force feed food anymore.
Yeah.
So some of the weight starts coming off quickly because he's not forcing it like he had to, because your calorie burn rate is so high. So those heavy boys that aren't going to be playing in the NFL, they're probably happy not having to shovel
No question.
that food, because it's not fun. But people think, oh, that'd be great having to eat all that food. It's not great.
It is till it's not. And the thing is, I have a standard here where when I took over the head strength conditioning spot, I knew that we had an issue with body weights, and we really don't have an issue with body weights anymore, because so what I do is that right before camp, I take the 2 weeks, the average of the 2 weeks of what they weighed before camp. So what they're weighing right now. And they have to make that weight every single night at dinner when they leave our facility. If not, they come in the next morning at 6 a.m. and it's to get an extra meal. And it's to get an extra meal. Really, it's because they have to walk up the hill and get up here at 6 a.m. and be a pain, have me just watch them eat breakfast, then walk down the hill. They got to wake up a little bit earlier, get all this stuff in here. If it's November, it's cold, and it's a deterrent, and it makes them wanting to eat more food during the day, and it keeps weight on our guys. So yeah, but as soon as they're done, like those guys stop eating all that food and they feel great. They lose 15 pounds in the first 2 weeks because, like I said, they're force feeding. Like you said, they're force feeding themselves to maintain that weight.
You said motivating the generation means meeting athletes where they are, right? And I just had the episode that dropped today. Kristen Woodrich, shout out to her. Her phrase was, and her approach was a little bit better than my phrase. She goes, I love you where you are, but I love you too much to keep you there. That's what she said. And I like that, because you meet them where they are, but you still want them to evolve. Now, so different generation. I'm 51. Kids are 18 to 22-year-olds. And if you don't connect with them, they see through that. They see through the bullshit really easily.
Amen.
How do you guys stay real? How do you stay relevant? How do you stay cool so you're not bro square, right? From the 70s. And how do you...
I think for me, the stay square, you got to own your square. I'm 40 years old. Like and again, I go back to telling young people, like, you have to be yourself. You just have to be a caricature of yourself. They see through bullshit. And especially here, like this guys, everything they do is leadership. They have multiple classes on leadership. They see good, bad leadership. They see bad leadership. They see all these different, this is the #1 leadership institute in the world. They're getting graded on leadership. They're grading their teammates on leadership. They're grading their classmates on leadership. So if you try to fool these guys and BS them, they're going to see it immediately. So you have to be yourself. You just have to be a caricature of yourself. You have to take yourself, who you are, and turn it up to 11 and bring that energy, bring that juice. So I agree. You do have to meet them where they are, but you have to bring them to where they want to be. I tell our players, the difference between who you are and who you want to be is your intent, and how intentional you are with how you warm up, how you go through the squats, the things that as an offensive lineman, how you do the mobility work. Because everybody wants to squat 600 pounds, but how intentful are you when we do our mobility? How intentful are you when we do our core work? And that's the difference between who you are and who you want to be. But with this generation and I think their attention span is shorter. Like all of ours is. If I'm on social media and I see a video and it says wait for it, and I don't want to wait the 10 seconds for it. I'm watching everything in fast forward. And I didn't grow up with that. It's just where our brains are. So you need to catch them fast. The time of the 5-10 minute coaches' speeches are gone. You need to get your point across, have them feel that energy, and get to it as soon as possible, or else you're going to lose them. But it's finding new ways and new authentic ways to get that buy-in. Because I think I put my pre thing is, you got Pop Warner teams with things on their with shirts that say pain is weakness leaving the body. The old school sayings, they don't resonate with these kids because I've heard them thousands and thousands of times. But in order to get them to and buy-in, the #1 way to develop buy-in is to deliver results. If you can get kids to be more confident and be stronger and be faster, they're going to buy into you. If you can't, then they're not going to buy it. And it's funny because when our freshmen first get here, we reteach a warm up, but as soon as I get into, and we might be in session 4 when I start teaching the back squat. And when I start teaching the back squat, I'm teaching them how to brace their abs, how to hold the kettlebell here, how to flare their knees, how to sit down. And we're not going to put a bar in their back for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And they look at me and they're like, this isn't what I saw on my recruiting trip when guys are in here squatting 600 pounds. I'm like, yeah, you're damn right it isn't. I'm going to bore the hell out of you. I don't get paid to entertain you. I get paid to get you strong. And this idea of, hey, I'm going to start loading dysfunction, like, hell no. I don't do things slowly because it is the way that I read it in a book. I do things slowly and teach you great technique because I know I can get results faster. If there was a faster way, if we could do things with bad technique and get there or do a faster way and you'd be a better athlete, I'd do that. But I slow things down and take it step by step. And I have to convince them in those 2 months that, hey, you're going to get stronger by doing this basic stuff. The stuff you've done before, we're just going to do it in a different way, and you're going to be way stronger. But it's the results of, okay, our freshmen are in there squatting a 35-pound kettlebell, and they got a 40-year-old guy yelling down, up, talking about brace. And then our vets come in, and they're squatting 600 pounds. And the entire offensive line is benching 405, and they're all squatting 600 pounds. And you look at it and go, all right, this guy knows how to get me to there, so I'm going to listen. And again, it's if you deliver the results, you get buy-in. But I do like this generation. I think they have a world of knowledge, and I think they see through bullshit so quickly that you have to be on your game at all times. Yeah, oh yeah, everything. Keep saying it. Keep saying it. Keep saying it. Keep educating about them. Keep educating it. Keep educating it. Every time we break down a session, like every time we end a practice, eat, sleep, hydrate. Eat, sleep, hydrate. 90% of your recovery is going to come from that. All the other stuff is fats. Like you will, if you're at a session with us, you will hear me say that. Because I mean, you can do all that. And I love cold tubs. I love the meditation. I love the breathing techniques. I think those are add-ons. But if I'm not sleeping, and it's hard as a grown man to with a family and to sleep 8 hours a night. So I don't sleep 8 hours a night. I get away with 6, but like, I'm not a Division I college athlete who's trying to perform. If you're not taking care of those things, you don't have a shot, because that's how your body's recovered from millions of years from hard things. Doing the stim and doing the Normatex, and they're great. They're add-ons. It's that extra 5% if you're doing those 3 basic blocks. But if you're sleeping 4 hours a night and then you're doing Normatec and jumping in the cold tub and doing the heat tub and doing back and forth, you're walking by dollars to pick up penny. So it's just continue to say it, continue to say it, continue to say it, continue to say it. And eventually they'll believe, like they're going to believe it and start to follow it. But that our biggest issue here is we absolutely have a wonderful resource. We have so many resources with nutrition. We are outstanding with the hydration, but sleep here comes at a premium. It is hard for our guys to get sleep, because it's not only is it Division I college football, it's one of the most difficult academic institutions in the country, but our guys have at Harvard, if their guys are staying up till 2 a.m. doing extra schoolwork, the next morning, they can sleep through their first 2 classes. If our guys stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning doing schoolwork here, they have formation at 6:45, and then they have to be at class at every single class throughout the day. So educating them about sleep, and we try to use a sleep bank model where our guys can get this many hours throughout the week or this many hours, but it's really just trying to sleep as much as possible. If you go to we do bed checks at away games. I've been here 10 years. We've never had an issue with bed checks at home or away games. I walk around the hotel and it's 10 o'clock and our guys put the little latch in the door. I pop in, there's 2 people sleeping, next room. Pop in, 2 people sleeping, next room. Pop in, 2 people sleeping, and just lock the doors on the way out, because they know if the day before a game, they're going to get as much sleep as possible. Yeah, no question. Absolutely. Absolutely. So for our guys, the branch night is when they figure out which branch of the service they're going to be in. So infantry, armor, all the way to medicine, there's a million different ones. And like I said, no military experience here, but I think there's 16 different branches that they can, and don't quote me on that. I apologize if I'm wrong, but I think it's 16. Our guys it's based on their class rank, their leadership rank, their military rank, and they get which branch they want or close to their top rank. And then post night is when they get to find out where they're going. And this is their senior year, after they get their branch, where they're going to go and be stationed for their first time in the Army and their first post. And for our guys, it's really meaningful, and it's an awesome experience to work this hard and see the rewards and see where the trajectory of their Army career is going to take them. And it really is. It's a cool experience to be a part of and to be here and watch these young men come in as 17 or 18-year-old young guys and end up being Army officers in 4 years, and the strides they make. It's a really cool thing to watch.
Open it up and the others.
It is 364 days a year. That's the day that everybody is looking forward to here. And I'm sure it's the same thing at Navy. And we break it down every single practice, every single run. We had a clap up, break down, go Army, beat Navy. You'll see it in our plate in a weight room. It says beat Navy. That game is the absolute highest of high. And when you win it, and the lowest of lows, there is so much emotion in that game and surrounding that game because we are recruiting the same athletes. There's a certain type of guy that will come to an academy, a certain type that has the academics, the ability to play at this level, and the drive and the patriotism to want to go to a place like that. And then we're fighting them in recruiting. And then we're fighting every single day to train to be able to beat them on the fields. And if you prepare enough for that game, the rest of the games will take care of themselves. So you're looking forward to that 364 days a year. And everybody, the fans and everybody sees the pomp and circumstance outside of it. I really don't. At this point, I've never really seen that. I've never been to even a walkout at a game here, the march on at a game here. My wife sees the flyovers. My little girl sees the flyovers. We don't see any of that. We see that we've been training as one unit, one heartbeat this entire year to do this one thing together. And it isn't just for the players. I'm looking up right now, and there's right above my computer right here is a picture of Coach Carizzi, who's their head strength coach, and their staff at the White House this year, because we lost that game and they won the CIC and they're at the White House celebrating. So it's personal. And I know Coach Carizzi well. We've been friends since he was at Kennesaw. We used to talk on the phone all the time. We still talk on the phone every once in a while, but not as much as we did when he was at Kennesaw. But that singing second and that pride and that accomplishment feeling it's everything. It's what wakes us up in the morning to be able to train to win that game, because it really is. It's the best in college football. It's the best game in athletics, college athletics, pro athletics in my mind. And it really is. It's special. And it is. You take 125 people from all different walks of life, all of this country. You take the 50 staff or whatever that they're involved in that, and you have one heartbeat the entire year to do this one thing. There's nothing like it. There really is nothing like it. And no matter what the records are going into that game, you throw them out the window, because there is so much emotion and so much. We're running very similar offenses and defenses with very similar young men. It's special. It's special. Yeah, there is.
Stadium?
Yeah, Mike Stadium. It's awesome. It's awesome. We get a great crowd. It's loud. It's exciting. And if you like running the football, you like old school, hard nosed football, it's a great place to watch a game. I love it. Oh yeah, as soon as, especially on game day. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not on game day. All you got to do is get a visitor's pass, and it's pretty much you get a background check and a visitor's pass, and you can get on and walk around. There are areas that are off limits, but it's you can do all the history and do all the tours. It's absolutely
But that's probably off limits, I would imagine.
You're on limits there. You're welcome, and I invite people. As long as they give me a heads up, feel free to come by. And the way that we have to train here, and the way that so we're first going to attack their ability to focus and their ability to move. So the first thing is we're going to teach our warm up. And when I say teach it, I'm not going to yell, scream, swear. I'm going to be as calm and as patient as I can. And when we go through the warm up, every time we're going to bring all the new freshmen in, and every time that they mess it, we're going to start over, and we're going to start over, and we're going to start over, and we're going to start over. So if it takes an hour, we don't get through anything else that day. That's what we're going to do for that hour. If it takes an hour the next session, that's what we're going to do the first 2 days, maybe the first 3 days. Eventually they're going to get it. But in between when they screwed up, I'm not doing up downs and push-ups, and 25-year-old me was different than 40-year-old me, because I need their heart rate to be low. I need their anxiety to be low, and their anxiety is already spiked. It's their first day in a college football weight room. So I'm going to try to bring them down as low as possible so they can learn, so I can teach. Then I'm going to start teaching how they squat. And when we do those two things, we're going to immediately start to see strength, mobility, and mental toughness issues. Guys who start to panic, guys who start, and we can address them as a staff. Guys who start to panic, guys who start to get frustrated, guys who lose their minds. Like, we're going to start to address those mental situations, and we'll start to globally correct those situations. And then with mobility, like if we're starting to do a bodyweight squat and we see guys start to raise off, we know that, hey, we're going to make a note. He needs extra mobility work, or if a guy can't sit all the way down in the squat, it might be a strength issue. We don't know all of those answers right there. But like day 3, I'm going to see it's funny, because I work with the offensive linemen, our guys who are too chubby when they walk in, I'm going to call them, hey, I got you 3 after this. This is what you need to start doing. We need to take some body fat off you. You're a little bit too roly-poly at this point. Let's get it done. And just start addressing to them and talk to them like they're grown men and give them feedback on what they're doing. And it's just, again, it's those conversations, it's talking to them and just, hey, this is where you're at. This is where you want to be. The difference between who you are and who you want to be is your intent. So if you're intentional about these things, you'll get better at them. If you're not, then you won't. But it's getting to know them and getting to see them physically and getting to know them when they're talking, and get to know them just by their body language too, and being able to read that and make decisions based on what you saw. That was a roundabout way to answer it, but it's the truth. At this point, whatever is on the radio, because I made a rule that we're not allowed to have that nobody's allowed to wear headphones, like even in their personal in their personal workouts. So I would be going with a podcast or a book on tape. I've been listening to music for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 15 years. It's hard for me to listen to music on my own. So it's normally a book on tape or a podcast. If I'm lifting there by myself, the music's off. I'm lifting. Like if I'm in my car, it's normally a book on tape, not a book on tape. That's audible.com or a podcast. That's where
Lifting, right? And I'm going
Yeah.
to it.
Yep.
Okay.
That's it. Yep.
Every day.
My
Okay.
favorite. So the one thing that we don't get is, because we are the Army, we don't get booed. We don't get stuff thrown at our buses. It's America. And when we're going to a big place, we're going to the SEC, we're going to Big Ten, we're going to the heartland of America. So people are cheering as we're driving up. Our guys hate it because they want to be like, but it's cool. So we don't get that kind of super negative feedback like that. If you're Alabama visiting LSU, you would. The coolest place for me that we ever played was 2017 or 2018. We played Oklahoma and we took them into double overtime. And that place was it felt like you were in a hurricane the entire game. It was so loud and the fans were so great. It was unbelievable. And the fact that we took them into double overtime and gave them an unbelievable scare, that was the coolest place we played, was Oklahoma. I absolutely loved it. Toby Keith came into a locker room after the game and shook all of our guys' hands. It was an awesome experience. So that was the coolest play.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, no question. Sports, I'd have to go Remember the Titans. I watched that over and over as a high school kid, and before high school, that was it for me at the time. So it would be football. It's really the only, I don't watch much sports on TV at this point, and it's the NFL and all this. It's cool. College sports it's cool. I love going to women's basketball games here with my 4-year-old daughter. But really, football is the main sport that I'll watch. It's mostly just college football, and it's mostly teams that my buddies are coaching at now. It'd be the Army football team. That's the God's honest truth. Like that. That's my life. Those Saturdays that's best. 2 fiction. We're The Given Day by Dennis Lehane. I grew up in Boston, Mass. Dorchester, a small subset of Boston. He wrote it's historical fiction about Boston policing back in the day, and it's like I said, historical fiction of not his, but the main character's family story, and it weaves through politics and of the era. So it was very interesting. As far as nonfiction, A First Rate Madness by Nasir I can't say the last name, but it's A First Rate Madness, and it's the link between mental illness and leadership. How leaders who have suffered through some sort of mental illness in their lives have gone to be effective leaders. And it tracks Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, a few different leaders in that aspect, and gives feedback on what they went through and how that made them effective leaders when it became a time of crisis.
Check both of you for that.
Absolutely. I would have to go with my wife, Bridget, the person who keeps me together, keeps our family together, and she's the person that I trust the most in the world, and she gave up her career to to instill the values that we want, and she stays at home and does that role for us, and she makes sure not only is she taking care of our daughter, but she makes sure that I'm the best father I possibly can be, and goes out of her way to bring bring our daughter up here so that I can run around the weight room with her for 2 hours every single day. My favorite move would be There Will Be Blood, the Daniel Day-Lewis movie about how he's an oil man, and just
Oil.
yes, and that drive of and obviously he had some issues. The drive to be the best and to have all this influence. There's something that resonates in that with me, that he would be the bad guy I'd cheer for.
That year.
Squad, no question at all. For all the reasons I said earlier. It's tough. There are plenty of good ones.
FKC.
Yeah, some motherfuckers keep coming would absolutely be the one that I go. And then the other one I've been saying the entire time, which is the difference between who you are and who you want to be, is your intent. And most people miss opportunity because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. I'm probably paraphrasing that, but that's so. On Twitter is the main one. It's Conor Hughes 67 on Twitter, and then on Instagram, which I just started posting. I had a personal Instagram for a while, and I would just post pictures of my wife and just things we did. But now because our players are more on Instagram than they are on Twitter at this point. It's X now. My kids are more on Instagram, so I started posting lifting videos. But it's called 6750 at Instagram. So those are the two places.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on. It was a blast.
Have a good one.
Yep,
We'll see you.